Hi, I'm Andre Huey, and welcome to Newsline 360. This is the news and current affairs program where we interview newsmakers from St. Kitts and Nevis and across the Caribbean, and anywhere in the world for that matter. We want to welcome our viewers watching on TVC Channel 40, those who are watching online on our social media networks or tvcplus.live. Our guest this week, we're going to be discussing a very, in some might see that as a controversial topic, but a very unique one indeed. And we're speaking with Dr. Wilton McDonald. He is an attorney, but also a researcher. He has been researching the identity of Africans, people of African heritage, and he has a very interesting theory which he's going to be sharing with us on this week's program. Dr. McDonald, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Andre, and pleasure to be here. So I just want to let your viewers know that I am a lawyer in about 7 jurisdictions. I am a chartered accountant. I am doing the third PhD, which is focusing on our Black history and to clarify some parts about who we are, what we are, origins of man. I think it's really timely as we look at economic headwinds and storms that's coming. We find ourselves at a crossroads and very much tied into the U.S. and the U.S. prosperity, which we benefited from in the Caribbean. I grew up in Cayman. My parents are Jamaican, and my mother, we're racially diverse. She's Indian, but born in Jamaica in Clarendon. My dad is part Black, part white, grew up in Westmoreland. I did not know anything about my history. And being a Caymanian, I actually didn't have a citizenship for 26 years. So I grew up really as an undocumented African, according to the storybooks and the history books. So I was interested in this field, not because of my profession. My profession, being a lawyer and hedge funds lawyer, trust lawyer, and an accountant, is one where I studied the financial markets for 30 years and designed products for clients of all over the world. But it's that understanding of the finance and how this world works that I was really caught up with history. And I read widely. I went off to university when I was barely 14, and I was able to complete the first 3 degrees by the time I was 18. So consuming knowledge, understanding, reading the encyclopedias for fun, it's my hobby. So as I digest, and growing up as a Seventh-day Adventist, which should resonate with some of your viewers, I grew up as a son of a pastor. He's now retired, Dr. McDonald first. And he taught me a lot about the Christocentric aspects of history. And in that biblical context, I come to realize now, being 50 years old and doing the third PhD, that biblical history is inextricably linked to our Black story and Black history. As it's portrayed, I want to tell your viewers just a little bit of what I've learned. And in my study, I have sampled more than 150 people. Recently, I got results back from the Eastern Caribbean, from Grenada, Barbados, Trinidad. And I would love to share that, because what it is showing is that of the 8 samples taken in the Eastern Caribbean in January of this year, 5 of them would be declared Hebrew, Black, Euromoors, European, and 3 would have the DNA R type of what is called a modern day European, but it's really an Asian. For your viewers, I must tell you that I said racially diverse. My mother, her grandparents came from India, so she's an Indian, born in Clarendon. My dad, again, is mixed, Black and white. But my wife of 20 years is Polish, and I'm living in Poland because of my wife. That has taught me so much, from knowing about what the current Jews are. They lived in Poland before the state of Israel. It taught me a lot about her ancestry as a white person. And it tracks back to the Caucasus. We're told that Europe was white. But if you look at the evidence coming out, not just what was released by Putin in the Black Russian icons disclosures a few years back, literally 3 years ago, when we're saying all the prophets, Jesus himself, all the disciples were Black people, melanated. But as we look at other evidences, like the Moorish quadrille painting, which I discovered in Germany, other sources, the 20 books written by Dr. Marie Charles of the UK. She's part St. Lucian, identifying with your viewers. Her dad is from St. Lucia, her mom is Irish, but not again Irish as in original Irish. Irish as in, for Irish as in white, but from the Caucasus, from Asia. Just like my wife of 20 years is Polish, but from the Caucasus. So when we think of colonizers, of our history, Europeans were all black people just 200, 300 years ago. We have to change our mindset. Present to your audience and presenting the two ways of viewing history, which I will expand in a minute.
Right. Now I just want to sort of bring it home, or at least to summarize. Your research essentially over the last few years, you've discovered, or based on what you would have researched and what you would have looked into, that Europeans as we know them are not exactly who they are. Europeans are actually, in your view and based on your research, persons of black people,
Color,
of African
colonizers. The slave masters
Now,
were
is
black.
it a case? So, how do you then explain, for example, what we have always been taught in history about the transatlantic slave trade, where Europeans, white Europeans, went into Africa and acquired black people who became slaves and were transported to the New World, to the Western Hemisphere? How do you explain that? Is it that our own people, black Europeans, who enslaved black Africans?
Correct. I will be very simple, and there's been debate on this. Andre, logistically, it's not possible to bring people from the Caribbean, of the Africa, the way that they described it. But the first stat I want to give is when you look at the United Nations, and because of the evidence coming out, Dr. Marie Charles, because of the Moorish quadrille painting, because of Putin, Vladimir Putin, declaring Russian icons, it questions history. And there's an essay written by Ben Franklin in 1751 that states that in paragraph 24 on the increase of mankind, and it's a public document, the number of whites in the world is proportionably very small. That was about 1% back in the 1700s. Our population then was barely 650 million. So I could just say all of history is really, most of it is wrong. And that one stat today of 8.2 billion, barely 8% would be considered white persons, including my wife. So there's no way that the museums, all the pieces, I have visited places myself in North Africa. I've seen in Tunisia, Algeria, statues where noses and lips are taken off to hide identity. We see the Great Sphinx in Egypt. I went to castles in Poland last week, and the oldest monuments in that castle in south of Poland, 8 images, noses and lips taken off. And it is becoming much clearer. And you look at the stats. If history was correct, wouldn't you think there would be more than 8% whites among us today? There are a lot of fair-skinned people, but make no mistake, half of the world, at least more than half, would be considered black melanated people in some form. So that alone tells you that something is wrong with our history. But on the slave trade, no matter what people may say, logistically, it was very difficult to take people over in the way they described during hurricane
So are you saying
season.
it is impossible for that to happen? That logically
It's
it is
impossible.
to
It's
transport?
impossible because the thing is, you basically have to transport people in various conditions, hurricane season, and Europe itself was broke, financially strapped at the time. Columbus came out with prisoners. The way that they describe about strapping people down, I've spoken to medical doctors, and I don't take, again, doctors are supposed to subscribe, they're the higher profession. Lawyers, same way as lawyers. But if you think about it, no, hardly any food, hardly any water, doing their business. And I want to get right there on spot.
But there has been documentation that the Middle Passage, as we know it, was a very horrible experience, and that a lot of the slaves, a lot of the Africans on those voyages died. Some of them were thrown overboard because of the horrible conditions. So the horrible conditions you're describing were actually described in history.
They were described, but the numbers of the total names of Africans. I did my due diligence. As a lawyer, I must. There are 19,000 names recorded in Washington, D.C. That's it, 19,000. I went to UCL in London. They have a slave register. They record the names of masters, but there's really nothing. I mean, those are black people, but they just say, well, these people own slaves. A lot of black people own slaves. But the names of African legitimate people, only about 19,000 can be found. The Lloyds of London insurance records, hardly anything before 1800. Of course, they had to insure cargo. They had to insure people. Even if they threw them off overboard, they still had to conduct some level of insurance. I have done quite a bit of due diligence, but the practical sense of the matter, given that we think the planet was mostly white, and that's the image that is burned in our brains, but the fact is reality today, the United Nations, they will tell you today 8% white. That alone has to challenge the intellect that something is up with history. There's no way history can be correct. Someone had to do the labor. Someone had to go and catch the Africans. But if you have only 1% or less of whites back then, how can you say whites did anything? They don't even factor into history. Being, if you regress the numbers backwards, any statistician would say it's impossible that they would be around. Whites are basically new to the planet, and they have fair-skinned people in the Middle East. And I visited many countries, and they called me what's called Berber Blue Man.
Right. Hold that point. We're up on a break. We're going to take a break and come back, and we'll continue this conversation. You're watching Newsline 360. We're speaking with Dr. Wilton McDonald, I beg your pardon. He is a lawyer, but also a researcher, researching the history of African identity. We'll be right back after these messages.
Your favorite TV shows are just a click away with TVC Plus at tvcplus.live. Stream our 24-hour live programming. Catch the latest episodes of TVC Originals on demand. Enjoy premium pay-per-view content and so much more. Watch on any device, TV, laptop, tablet, or smartphone. Visit www.tvcplus.live. Stream, watch, enjoy.
Tune in to Insights on TVC, where we explore the unique stories and perspectives of our fascinating guests.
I used to get in trouble for talking.
I am really angry. I forget English.
I had good examples of what people could become.
Each episode brings you an in-depth look at individuals from diverse backgrounds, sharing their personal journeys and valuable life insights.
I don't know. We're going to bathe here because Papa Bratcher says nobody owns the beach in St. Kitts.
People who sound like this and saying that they're like 15, I'm like, you have a beard.
Insights airs on Mondays at 8 p.m. with rebroadcast on Tuesdays at 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. Only on Television Caribbean, TVC. You can also stream on demand at tvcplus.live.
Are you tired of Wi-Fi dead zones in your home? The Cable has the ultimate solution with our whole home Wi-Fi coverage. Say goodbye to frustrating signal drops and hello to seamless connectivity in every corner of your home. No more
Mom, my tablet's not working in my bedroom. My game is freezing, Daddy.
or WhatsApp calls dropping as you walk around the house. So many people struggle with dead zones and restricted Wi-Fi, and the Cable has the answer. Enjoy full blanket increased Wi-Fi coverage with installation in 48 hours or less. Whole home Wi-Fi coverage is here. Get the whole family connected today. Come in or call the Cable at 465-2588 to get your whole home Wi-Fi boost installed. The Cable, always giving you more. Terms and conditions apply.
And we're back here on Newsline 360. I'm Andre Huey. Our guest is Dr. Wilton McDonald. He's a lawyer and also a researcher, and we've been discussing the origins of African heritage. And he has a very interesting theory that he's sharing with us. Before the break, Dr. McDonald, you spoke about the fact that we are, as African people, we're actually the original Europeans. And now, based on your research, you're saying that the slave trade as we know it, as we were taught in schools, as history as we recorded it, was not exactly so. You're saying that it is impossible for the ships to have come from Africa the way they did. So how then did African slaves or African people ended up here in the Caribbean? Is it that they were taken from Europe, if you're saying that the original Europeans were black?
Okay, I'll give you the answer and just give you a snapshot of the two schools of thought. We have the first schools of thought where mankind have gone through some evolution. And basically, it took thousands of years, and we went from animal, monkey, or simple cells, multiple complex cell, and the Renaissance man is white, is Caucasian. He's haplogroup R. And I'm giving you the haplogroups because I've been to the Caribbean, I've tested people, I've come back, and 5 out of the 8 samples in the Eastern Caribbean are E. They're like me. And E is actually the first haplogroup, but according to the evolution scientists, theory 1 is that the progressed, reformed, complete man is, the Renaissance man is R. So I'm not finding that out just from my studies, but that's the theory. So we basically had whites occupying the world. Adam was white, Jesus was white, everybody was white, everybody's white. I mean, the Romans, the kingdoms from Babylon, everyone's white. And our timeline would be millions of years. But most people could only go back 6,000 or 7,000 years. They could only find in ancient Sumeria actual buildings. Before that, there were places called Doggerland. This is the swamp between UK and Europe. It's really made up. And you have tales of King Arthur and the Norman conquest. They patch things in. And of course, the Dark Ages, because from about 500s to 1500s, dark. Then suddenly, poof, there was enlightenment. I'm going to answer your question now about the origins of Black and Africans. My school of thought, based on my 50 years of learning, is that man was created black from the earth of the ground. He was created perfect in God's image, which suggests that God himself is of melanated spirit, but his form is of a melanated format from the ground. People remain black, but the antediluvians, the people who lived in cities before Noah, and we're talking about a 5,000-year timeline, 5,000, from BC 4,000 to today, which we're about 1,000 years after Christ. And I'll just come briefly to that. So 4,000 BC, Adam, the flood event was around 2400 BC. But before the flood event, mankind, creation was corrupted. The antediluvians experimented, and there's mankind, which most people can understand. There's some people who do study this, and the difference between mankind and humankind. So the Bible supports, and even Ellen White, who is an Adventist, or was the Adventist founder, says that there was amalgamation, a mixing of why God sent the flood between mankind, black, and animals introduced into the genome, producing humankind or like man.
But just as a clarification, you mentioned that God in his form is melanated, but Jesus is...
He's a melanated?
Yes, so...
No. See, that's what I'm saying. The first school of thought is saying Jesus is white. We're not saying that at all.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying
I just wanted to clarify that. Yes.
The second point is of the world is that we came from black God, created around BC 4,000, roughly 5,000 years ago, and from that people were just black. But before the flood, people were experimenting. Ellen White spoke about the amalgamated DNA. Mankind means black, and human. Human is like man. And I have an Indian mom. It doesn't give me great pride. I know there are many people in the Caribbean, Guyana, Trinidad, who are also Indian. The fact remains is that I'm part Indian too. And the account, no other medical explanation can talk about climate. No, climate cannot change the genome at this level, at a cellular level. So there was a mixing of species creating human, and the flood happened. But these were black people in the ark. And afterwards, people, because of the experiments done before, people mutated, but some extent, people remained black throughout all the kingdoms. We're talking about Egypt, Samaria, Babylon, and of course, Israel became a nation because the time of David, 1000 BC, then into Babylon, 600 BC, and Media Persia, modern day Iraq and Iran, Greece and Rome, from 150 BC to 470 AD.
So to be clear, the slaves or the black people who were enslaved in the New World, in the Western Hemisphere, were not from Africa. They were from Europe.
A combination of the people that came from the time of the Olmecs. They came from the Bering Straits. That part is real. And also brought as prisoners. There's Dr. Marie Charles. She has 20 books written about the homes they owned, and whites came in as domestic workers and learned the language, and then they took over. Essentially, they took over their houses, and they were either killed, blacks were killed, or sent back in as prisoners to the West. To those boats that arrived in the 1800s were really not from Africa. Perhaps they had a few token boats because, of course, they have to sell the line. And I could say, as a professional, if I was doing a con job, I would make sure there'd be 2 or 3 boats from West Africa. But most of the boats came from Europe, transporting black nobles too. And when the whites came to America in the late 1800s, they made up where they came from. I have proof in my tree. My family tree is almost a million. And I look at people's family trees. When they came over in that Staten Island, where you from? As a Jamaican say, where you come from? They say, oh, I'm from Wales. Oh, I'm from Scotland. Oh, I'm from New Zealand. They were whites coming from the Caucasus. They were coming from Asia, from the caves and the Ural Mountains. They were rounded up and taken to America, but they were not from Europe.
All right, hold that point. We're gonna take a break and come right back. You're watching Newsline 360. We're speaking with Dr. Wilton McDonald, researcher on African heritage and identity. We'll be right back after these messages.
Your favorite TV shows are just a click away with TVC Plus at tvcplus.live. Stream our 24-hour live programming. Catch the latest episodes of TVC Originals on demand. Enjoy premium pay-per-view content and so much more. Watch on any device, TV, laptop, tablet, or smartphone. Visit www.tvcplus.live. Stream, watch, enjoy.
Tune in to Insights on TVC, where we explore the unique stories and perspectives of our fascinating guests.
I used to get in trouble for talking.
I am really angry. I forget English.
I had good examples of what people could become.
Each episode brings you an in-depth look at individuals from diverse backgrounds, sharing their personal journeys and valuable life insights.
I don't know. We're gonna bathe here because Papa Bratcher says nobody owns the beach in St. Kitts.
People who sound like this, I'm saying that they're like 15. I'm like, you have a beard.
Insights airs on Mondays at 8 p.m. with rebroadcast on Tuesdays at 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. Only on Television Caribbean, TVC. You can also stream on demand at tvcplus.live.
Are you tired of Wi-Fi dead zones in your home? The Cable has the ultimate solution with our whole home Wi-Fi coverage. Say goodbye to frustrating signal drops and hello to seamless connectivity in every corner of your home. No more
Mom, my tablet's not working in my bedroom. My game is freezing, Daddy.
or WhatsApp calls dropping as you walk around the house. So many people struggle with dead zones and restricted Wi-Fi, and the Cable has the answer. Enjoy full blanket increased Wi-Fi coverage with installation in 48 hours or less. Whole home Wi-Fi coverage is here. Get the whole family connected today. Come in or call the Cable at 465-2588 to get your whole home Wi-Fi boost installed. The Cable, always giving you more. Terms and conditions apply.
All right, and we are in the final segment of the program, Newsline 360, this edition. We're speaking with Dr. Wilton McDonald. Very interesting information he's sharing with us on the history of African people, which is alternative. It's alternate information, if I may put it that way, to what we've been taught. in schools. Now, Dr. McDonald, you've outlined essentially the basis for your research, the basis for your theory. But let me also ask you this. Well, two things really I want to ask. One has to do with how does this information impacts us as people of African heritage? Because essentially you're saying, for most of us, and based on the tests you would have done on persons in the Eastern Caribbean and other parts of the Caribbean, that their origins do not trace back to Africa, it traces back to Europe. How then do we, as people who consider ourselves Africans or consider ourselves of African heritage, then how do we use this information? How does this then affect us, positively or negatively?
Okay, Andre, I am here bearing gifts. And here it is that our history has been distorted. Our youth, especially the black youth, for the last 100 years, liquor, drugs, everything bad, lynching, castration, everything bad, poisons, you name it, has affected the black community. Now, police shootings, I mean, there's so many things that's gone wrong. So the youth are disaffected, they're really lost. A lot of them, the ones that are not able to access education. So this information, what I'm saying is, I would talk to the gangs and those that are involved in vice. I say, brother, don't go there. There's a better way, and you need to live for your ancestors, because you're coming from royal ancestry. 300 years ago, the whole planet was black. And I know it's hard to see because of the movies and what we're told, but 300 years ago. So I'm trying to help that community, because if you help individuals, if you help families, if you help larger families and communities and towns, it will reverberate, it will grow and benefit the community. That's one thing. The other thing too is blacks have been talking about reparations. Now, I know there's some Pan-Africans who are very staunch and say, well, I am not dismissing Africa. I love Africa. I am proud. We are all African. But it's just like, and I give this analogy, Jesse Owens won 4 gold medals at the Olympics in 1936. It's like, Jesse, you won 4 golds, but take one home. Just take one home. Forget about 4. You won 4. We won 4. We're people of God. We're melanated. So for the Pan-Africans staunch, I am not dismissing that 1 medal. I'm taking it home. But I'm also claiming 3 more medals that I've won. Asia, Europe, America. It's all black. It factors into discussions on reparations, getting rent back, getting paid back for our lands, what we've lost. Even today, my namesake, Clan MacDonald, I visited Armadale Castle in Scotland. It's for sale. The whole place is for sale, 50,000 acres and more. Now, maybe is it because of the work I've done? I've been a thorn in their side. I've been a royal thorn, and I'm happy to know that I'm a thorn in their side, because I'm saying to them, the numbers make no sense. And why are you selling? People in America are really upset. Oh, I claim my identity from Europe. Yes, I know as Americans you claim your identity from Europe. But guess what? Christ has always been black, and Europe has always been black.
Also, is it also fair to say, not to see ourselves as just Africans, but it is also fair to see ourselves as Europeans as well, based on your research?
I am identified as European, but I claim them all, just like a general with his big chest full of medals. Put it on, pin it. I am African, Berber, I am Middle Eastern, I am a Jacobite, I'm Scottish, I'm European. Pin the medals, and I'm a McDonald, a real McDonald, who I saw the maps of Jamaica, and I saw that the Masons and those that did their con job, Vatican, whoever, they really did their job well. And the records, you have to go to Scotland and other places to find records. I saw maps of Jamaica that showed you what Jamaica looked like 400 years ago. And my dad was born in a place, and this is a good point, he was born in Fort William. Fort William is on a map. Every place that a black McDonald is from is on a 400-year-old map. And you know where St. Elizabeth is? Do you know where the places where white McDonalds were born? Nowhere.
Right.
So it tells you that something is wrong with our history.
Before we go, I will ask this other question though, and we're going to wrap up because we're out of time. But there are some who may argue, Dr. McDonald, and you hinted earlier that your wife is Polish. That there's someone who may say, well, you know, you have a Eurocentric view, and that's why you've come up with this information, and you're sort of detracting from Pan-Africanism and detracting from our African heritage, and that we're real Africans, and that is all that matters, and that this talk about us being Europeans and Middle Eastern is all probably because of your influence of married to a European. What do you say to that?
No. My wife, if you know her, she is blacker than most black women. And that's probably what attracted me to her. That nothing is far from the truth here. I would say to you that I go where the evidence points me. I'm a lawyer in multiple countries, and I have been a student of the Bible. And what has driven me is this passion to learn and to study the scriptures and to really follow that word. I am not taking away from the Pan-Africanists. I am African. I am not disagreeing with you. All I'm saying to you, brother, is that you are just claiming here and satisfied with that. I am saying, I accept it. We're here, but I'm also claiming this. And what's wrong with that? I mean, if someone is offering you $10 and then another person is offering you $1 million, I mean, I'm sure your audience could appreciate it. You're going to say, okay, I don't need the $1 million, because I just take the $10 and I'm okay with it. It's not about greed. It's about just desserts. It's about what's right and what is fair. And blacks have been living the curses in Deuteronomy. And there's a reason for our affliction. And that we could visit on another time, but it's really what we have been enduring for all these years in the book of Deuteronomy, which some people should go and read.
We're out
but
of
God
time.
still loves us.
We're out of time, but quickly just tell us, how can people get in touch with you if they wanted to reach out to you and learn more about what you're offering?
I would say WhatsApp is good. I give it publicly, 48 for Poland, 48-608-274-583. You have my WhatsApp number. And then Facebook. Just Google Dr. Wilton McDonald. You'll see me come up on Facebook, on Twitter, on even Instagram, LinkedIn. I am on most, Blue Sky is the newest one. I am on social media. And feel free to drop me a line. I'm happy to have a chat.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. McDonald, for taking the time out to speak to us on this very interesting topic. And we'll probably have another conversation at some point.
Thank you. I look forward to it, Andrew.
All right. And thank you, the viewers, for watching this edition of Newsline 360. Join us again next week, same time, for another edition. Remember, you can watch this show in its entirety on demand by visiting our website, tvcplus.live. From all of us here at TVC Channel 40, I'm Andre Huey. Thank you for watching.